Um, I don't know. I just want to kind of give like a little praise. So tonight's sermon is talking about busyness. You know, what happens when we get so busy? So many things to do, so much stuff we got to do. You know, and today was one of those days. Today was a busy day. And it was looking like, oh, I don't know what this day is going to be like, you know. But I just praise the Lord that I don't even know what time it is right now. 6 something. I just praise the Lord that at 6:45 tonight, my daughter was up here, you know, helping to lead worship.
Yes.
And that is, that's huge. And like for our family and just to see Mele just stepping up and putting Jesus first. I just thank the Lord for that. So yeah, that was a little crazy.
Amen.
Okay. So, do you guys remember being like little kids? Okay, think back like long time ago. For some of us, it's not too long, you know, because we have the youth in here. So a while ago, at least when I was a kid, when I was 10 years old, I was thinking, oh, I can't wait to be grown. I cannot wait until I'm an adult. And in my mind, being an adult was like being 16. I can't wait till I'm 16 and I can get my license and I can drive around and I can do adult kind of things. I'll be a 16-year-old. And then the day comes, you know, from 10 years old, you turn into a 16-year-old over a couple of years. But then when you're 16, you're like, life is going to be so much easier when I'm 18. Things are going to be so much easier when I'm 18 years old and I can, you know, be on my own or do whatever, just be an adult. So then you turn 18, and then you cannot wait to turn 21. Then when you're 21, maybe you can't wait to turn 25 so you don't have any rental fees when you have a rental car. But like as a child, you're thinking of, I cannot wait to be an adult. I cannot wait to be able to do the things that my mom does. Yes, baby. To do the things that my mom does or the things that my dad does and just to be like them. I can't wait to be an adult and I don't have to answer to anybody. But then when you become an adult, so say when you turn 21, 25, whatever, you realize life was so much easier as a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Life was so much easier as a kid. I didn't have to pay bills. I didn't have to get a job. I didn't have to do all of these things that I have to do now as an adult. Because as an adult, we have to maintain our employment, shelter, social lives, family, and in the midst of all of this, we want to strengthen our walk with the Lord. So with a whole host of necessities and things needing to get done to maintain all those obligations, I mean, getting closer to the Lord is not an obligation. That's something we want to do. But all those obligations, we become busy. We become busy. There's just so much stuff we have to do. And so the term busy is a term I use to describe myself and my life. Because 5 kids in 5 different developmental stages causes our family to be busy at all times. So Boogie has doctor's appointments. You know, he's an infant. He has doctor's appointments. Calais is potty training, so that's a whole mess of whatever. And then our preschooler's family project is always due the next day, and I remember it the night before. We have an 8-year-old that has baseball practice, and then of course Mele, our youth, who is constantly having fundraisers and stuff. So that just, the calendar gets filled up. And so when you look at the calendar, it becomes overwhelming. But so that to us is busy for our family. But what I want us all to do right now, and you don't have to close your eyes, but I just want you to think about the busiest day that you had this week. Just think about it. What was the busiest day you had this week? And while we're thinking about that, think about the things that needed to get done, what it was going to take for you to get it done, and also how you felt in the middle of it all, in the middle of all the doing. How did you feel? For me, I felt stressed. Yeah, so you might feel stressful. And sometimes even if you look around and you're super busy and you look around and you're like, hey, that person that could be helping me is sitting down. It might enrage you. Like, I have all this laundry to do and you're just going to sit there. You know, it might enrage you or it might make you anticipate, oh, I can't wait till I'm done so I can sit on the couch too. Or I can't wait until I'm done so I can go to the beach like everybody else is going to the beach. But how do you think it would feel if somebody was waiting for you to get all those things done? That busiest day of the week. How would you feel if somebody was like, okay, they're still not done yet, they're still not done yet. When are they going to get done? It might put more pressure on you. But then how would you feel if that person that was waiting for you to get all those things done was Jesus? So tonight's reading comes from the book of Luke. So if you have your Bibles, we're going to turn to the book of Luke. And I love this book. I love the book of Luke because it's full of encounters that... It's full of encounters that, like, everyday people had with Jesus. Everyday people. All these encounters that they had with Jesus. So it's kind of, I like to think of it as a glimpse of what it would be like to cruise with Jesus. You know, oh, okay, that's what it would be like. Okay. But so we're going to look at Luke chapter 10. And we're going to go to verse 38. So this passage, we're looking at what happened when Jesus went to the home of two women named Martha and Mary. And so we're going to read verse 38 first. And it says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened up her home to him. And so we're just going to stop there. So before we go any further, can you imagine being in the position to be able to invite Jesus into your home? Can you imagine what that would be like? Like, oh, Jesus wants to come to my house? Jesus is going to come to my house? And now that we're adults, we're the adults that we dreamed about being when we were little 10-year-old kids. Now that we are those adults, we have homes that we can invite Jesus into. We have homes that we can invite acquaintances or neighbors or friends, church family. We can invite them over. And when we invite people over our house, what is one thing that you start to do? You start to clean. Yeah, because you don't want somebody to come in and be like, oh, okay, this must be how they live. No, you want people to come in and feel welcome and feel comfortable. So you want to make your space as hospitable as possible. But if we do that for our friends, and we do that for our family and acquaintances and stuff like that, and sometimes there's, the rush, oh, let me scrub these dishes, let me fluff these pillows. If we do that just for people that we know in this life, just imagine what we would be doing if we heard Jesus was coming to our house. What would the preparation be like then? And so Jesus was going to visit Martha and Mary, and Jesus was not a stranger to these women. They already knew him. He was already familiar with this family because Martha and Mary were the sisters of Lazarus, the man that Jesus had raised from the dead. And so these women knew Jesus and must have been excited that he was coming to visit them again. All right, and so we're going to look at verse 39. So we already, learned that Martha was going to open up her home to Jesus. So verse 39. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me. So just in that passage alone, just the way that she's talking to Jesus, you can already tell that she's comfortable with him. Yeah. She's like, hey, Jesus. Look, Mary, how's Mary just going to sit there? But the passage doesn't say that what Martha's tasks were, but we just know that she's doing it alone because she made that clear. I'm doing this all by myself. And we don't know whether she's preparing a meal or whether she's cleaning her home. I like to assume that she was preparing a meal. But as she's preparing, she notices Mary. And Mary is sitting. So I can only imagine how Martha felt in her time of busyness, in her time of, okay, we got to get this ready. In her time of doing all that, to look over to her partner, the person that was probably going to be jumping in this with her, and there she's sitting at the feet of Jesus. And so she's not preparing in the same way that she was. And so in Hawaii, and maybe in other places too, if you're a guest in somebody's home, and the host is, starting to wash dishes or put things away, you don't just sit on the couch. You cannot just sit there while everybody's, while that host is getting things ready or putting things away. You get up and you help. Yeah, that's something that's like that we learn we have to do. We cannot just be sitting here while somebody's working. And so I can only imagine how Martha must have felt. She must have been like, what? How is she just going to sit there when I'm doing all this stuff? And she can't see everything. So I'm thinking maybe Martha's like, okay, can Mary not see that I'm struggling? Can Mary not see everything that needs to get done to guarantee that this visit is a success? Doesn't she see me doing all this work by myself? Why doesn't she feel bad about not jumping in the way she needs to? And then she brings in Jesus. Jesus, can't you see everything I'm doing for you while Mary just sits there? And so verse 41, Jesus responds to Martha, and he even calls her by name. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. And so right there, like to think about how Martha must have felt. Like she's saying, look what I'm doing. Look what Mary's not doing. Jesus, aren't you going to say anything? And Jesus says that. I like to think Martha's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Because we can only assume that is not the answer that Martha was looking for. She was probably wanting Jesus to say, yeah, Mary, get up, go help your sister. She probably wanted she probably wanted an affirmation. You know what, Martha, you're doing great. You're doing what needs to get done. But instead, he's pointing out, you're doing a lot of things. Yes, you are doing a lot of things. And you feel like those things need to get done. But it's kind of unnecessary right now. The real thing you need to be concerned with is me. Because that's what Mary was doing. The busyness of the day that you pictured a few moments ago was probably full of a to-do list, It was probably full of things that you knew you had to get done so you could relax, like how Martha was just sitting there, There was probably a lot of things on your plate, and maybe you felt overwhelmed. So imagine what it would be like if you had that whole list, all those things you had to do, and you had one person that was going to help you with it. One partner. That could be your spouse, that could be your sibling, that could be your friend. But imagine you had a partner, and while you're doing all those things, you're in the heat of it. All right, I'm almost done. And then you look over and you see them sitting down quietly. And maybe they're praying. And if that was me, if I was getting a lot of things done and I looked over and I said, hey, what is Ryan doing? He's just sitting there. I would probably lose it. Like, honestly, I would probably say, there's so many things that I'm doing right now. Do you not see what I'm doing? We have all these things that need to get done. And so that whole scene with Martha and Mary kind of reminds me of how we are at Puka Naz. And not really what's going on between Martha and Mary, but the preparation of things. Something special about Puka Naz is that we have all these great outreaches that help the community and just touch people's lives. And so when people think of Puka Naz, they think of this church, they think of compassion. They think of support. They think of love and family and people just being welcome. But putting on those big outreaches, such as the Thanksgiving Imu, it takes a lot of work. And we know it takes a lot of work, yeah. So many hands go into the preparation, the facilitating, the organization, and the breakdown and setup. But every year we do it because it's expected. And it reaches families and it blesses the community. But with the Imu hype and the actual event getting bigger and bigger each year, how easy would it be just to focus on what we're doing rather than why we're doing it? The event gets easier as the years go on, not because we're just getting used to it, but because the worry and the Imu anxieties lessen each year. Because we realize it's all about Jesus. This Imu, it's all about Jesus. It's all about, reaching families that probably would never walk on a church campus. They would probably never come to Puka Naz if it wasn't for bringing their turkeys. And so we're far more likely to be at peace while serving. We're far more likely to be at peace while checking in turkeys that haven't thawed completely as they should have. Trying to enforce registration cutoffs and the cleaning up portion of it. We're more likely to be at peace if we do all of that with the love in our hearts, rather than seeing those things as tasks that just need to get done. And so the passage doesn't tell us where Martha was in her heart, but I can't help to imagine what the scene would have looked like if Martha was doing what she was doing and she carried on with her preparations and she did it with love in her heart rather than, okay, this just has to get done. I got to get this done. I got to get this meal together. Without her worrying of what would happen if her tasks didn't get completed. But when those tasks are for the Lord, what can be said? You know, Martha was preparing for Jesus. She was preparing for his visit. And so her wanting for things to be just so, for the glory of the Lord, reminds me of how it can be to prepare for service on a Sunday. For some of us, when we think about the busiest day of the week, it's probably today. It's probably every Sunday. It's probably the busiest day of our week. Because Sundays can be full of rushing to prepare things that are needed for the church service to run smoothly. Making enough copies and slideshows for leading worship, getting kids ready for KP Church, and ending a service on time. And trying to fill any dead air with something good so everyone can think back on the service and say, oh, that flowed really good. That was really good. It was good that we had those visitors because then they could see we have it all together. Yeah. Because we want everyone present at our service to be comfortable, and we want things to feel easy and for them to be relaxed. And that's how I picture Martha's intent. She wanted things to flow smoothly, but she wanted the smoothness so bad to the point where she started to worry. She started to stress out, and the actions or non-actions of those around her started to affect her heart and how she was feeling. She was serving in the capacity she knew, but she saw Mary doing differently. And so she basically tattled on Mary to Jesus. Tell her to help me, she said. And Jesus said, using her name, Martha, Martha, you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Jesus is telling her, I see what you're doing, but it's causing you to lose focus. Mary's got it. She knows what is the most important thing for her to do, and she's doing it. I'm not going to break this intimacy. I'm not going to break away from her so she can go and do when she knows she needed to come and learn and be with me. And so I picture Martha in the kitchen. Like if this is Puka Naz, I picture Martha in the kitchen with her hands up. What's going on? What is this? I picture her just like slowly losing it, you know. What's going on? And in that same moment, there's Mary sitting there. So while Martha's up in arms, Mary is still sitting there at the feet of Jesus, like a child, like a student, drowning out the world, unbothered by her surroundings, and in the presence of the Lord. And so the fact that Mary took such a pause in her daily life and in her preparations shows how important she knew these moments to be. She had seen the works of Jesus' hands, and she knew him to be the priority. The way the passage is written sounds as if Martha was either the older sibling or she was just the one that took charge in these kinds of situations. And in the time that Jesus was in her home, Mary's cares about what her sister thought or what her sister felt needed to get done were gone. Mary showed the faith that she had in Jesus. She showed that she would seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness before she would get consumed by busyness. She showed that she believed that man shall not live on bread alone, rather than preparing a meal. Mary showed that she believed time with Jesus and hearing his words as she sat at his feet was the most important need for her life. Mary showed her faith while she was being challenged to simply work. And so the funny thing about this passage is that it plays out every day in our lives. Every single day this happens in our lives. Every moment that we choose not to commune with Jesus because we find we're wrapped up in the things we need to do, we're choosing not to just sit at his feet. Every time that we look at our calendar and we're like, oh, I don't know when I'm going to be able to get my Bible reading in. I don't know when I'm going to, I guess I'm not going to be able to pray at that time. Every time that we push Jesus to the side while we focus on what needs to get done, we get to think about, okay, who am I right now? Am I going to be Martha? Am I going to get my to-do list wrapped up and feel good and relaxed? Or am I going to be Mary? Am I just going to sit at the feet of Jesus and know that everything is going to be okay? Know that he's the priority in my life. And so then we have to ask ourselves, are our desires similar to Martha's? Or can we say that we have the faith and and just that heart chasing after Jesus like Mary? Do we place the function of a church service or the ease of our work mornings or our own personal preferences in front of spending time with Jesus? Or can we say that, everything else that can wait? I'm just going to pray right now. I'm going to bring Jesus into what I'm doing right now. Can we say that? Will we, in the midst of running around and in the middle of our preparations, drop everything and be with our Lord? And so this passage, this really speaks to just how it can be in ministry, in leading ministries. The youth group is learning about distractions, or I'm sure they already know about distractions. Okay? They're teenagers, middle schoolers. But we're learning that distractions aren't necessarily bad. Like, they're not usually things that are bad, Because when we think of distractions, when I say, okay, what are some distractions for you guys, youth? They're like, oh, I guess our phones. I guess YouTube videos, things like that. Things that can distract them from doing their homework, But sometimes our distractions could just be where our heart is when we're preparing for a lesson, where we are in our day, or what we feel like we gotta do, or I live in Wailuku and I gotta come to Pukalani. Sometimes there's a stress there. Oh, I gotta leave at 5:15 if I'm gonna get there by 6, and that just becomes busy. And so even when we're serving in the capacity of like leading a ministry, or just coming to church, even just getting to evening service on time, those can be things that are distracting us. And they are good things. We do want to get to church. We do want to make a good lesson. We do want to make sure everything flows smoothly. But we also want to make sure that we take that time, that we make sure Jesus is with us, and that we commune with him, and that he is a part of our everyday, everything that we're doing. And some of the distractions that we have, they could be friends. They could be relationships. Anything that's pushing us away. Anything that's making it harder for us just to hold on, to grasp this feeling. Like when we lead worship, when we're singing these songs, we can feel the truth. We can feel where we want to be. And in that song, I forgot what it's called. I called, you answered. That one. Came to my rescue and came to my rescue. We're saying, I just want to be where you are. I want to be where you are. And so I just pray that this passage, at first when I read it, I was like, okay, I identify with Martha. I identify with her. I try to get things done. But I think it takes effort. It takes work to be like Mary and just to sit at the feet of Jesus. So we're gonna pray right now. Father God, we just thank you for your word. We just thank you for basically just outlining the things that we'll come in contact with in this world, the struggles that we'll have within ourselves just to make time for you. And we just pray over every person here, Father, that no matter how busy life gets, no matter how busy Sundays get, or ministry nights, or anything that we're doing to serve you, regardless of how busy we feel, I just pray that we just chase you, and that we just sit at your feet, and we lay everything at your feet, and we remember that the reason why we do the things we do, the reason why we have emo outreaches, why we have these nights, is to serve you, and tell more people about your love and who you are. And so I just pray that we, as we go through this week, that we're challenged every day, and that we remember that we just want to be with you, and what it takes to be with you, and that it's nothing more than just sitting at your feet and trusting you. And just as we conclude this night of worship, I just pray that you allow us just to go to our homes safely and just really just be real with ourselves about who you are in our lives and where you are in our lives. Are you waiting in the living room while we're preparing things for you? Or are we at your feet? I just love you and we thank you so much. Jesus. It's all these things that we pray in your heavenly and most precious name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah.